The Detroit Lions lost their star defender early in a tsunami against the Packers week 9, but they still came out with the commanding victory. Now these two teams are facing off on Thursday Night Football for a huge NFC North divisional game. I'm sure Branch is going to want to leave his mark Thursday night and leave out some big hits, hopefully not too big. I'm still upset that New York called in to eject him from the game, not the refs on the field. And Matt LaFleur and the Packers definitely want revenge against these Lions from the loss earlier in the season. Additionally, LaFleur through his 6 seasons with the Green Bay Packers is 21-10 against NFC opponents. However, 1-5 over the last 6 matchups against the Lions. The rivalry is turning in Detroit's favor. Since the Week 9 loss to Detroit, the Packers beat the Bears 20-19, blew out San Fran 38-10, and beat Miami 30-17. 3-0 since Week 9, and they're not just beating teams. The last 2 haven't been close. Something interesting I found was that over the past 4 seasons, when LaFleur's Packers have won by at least 15 points, the point differential between the Packers and their next opponent the following week is on average 3 points. But that was before a few weeks ago, they just beat San Fran by 18 and Miami by 13. I do think it's going to be a close game. I don't think the Packers will blow out the Lions, and I don't think the opposite is going to happen either. I believe it's going to be a high-scoring, close divisional rival matchup, and that's because the Lions have the best offense in the NFL, and their defense is extremely injured. We all know. This was Detroit's original front 7. It's wiped out. But DJ Reader and McNeil stand strong, and they've really stepped up over the past few weeks. And not just their run defense, but the pressure on the quarterback has improved greatly. And teams need that to win. Defenses need that, especially against good mobile quarterbacks, people like Jordan Love. And Zadarius Smith has proved to be a great signing, putting pressure on the quarterback. He's out there, great influence on the team, seems to be the best person for the Lions culture, and he's putting up great work. Seeing Zadarius Smith come to the sideline with a few different injuries, I think that he's just working so hard, and he's a bit older. He's getting banged up. Some of these games have been extremely physical. But some good news is that Carlton Davis has looked improved during practice this week. Hopefully he can play. Terrion Arnold was back last week against the Bears. If we can have both of them back, I'd feel a lot better about this game. I believe the Lions defense will be able to come together, play hard, and do enough to beat the Packers. But I'd be lying to you saying I wasn't worried. It's looking like Taylor Decker offensively isn't going to be playing. Dan Skipper's going to be in again. The offensive line against the Bears looked phenomenal in the first half. Second half could have been a bit better, but the opportunities are still there, and the line is still strong. And when you have the runners, Gibbs and Montgomery both put up over 80 yards on Thanksgiving. Gibbs has been the highlight, I think, of this whole team this season. Averaging 6 yards a carry. The moves he's been making, the tackles he's been breaking, he's putting up 15-plus yard runs every single game this season. I'm excited to watch these two teams play in a dome instead of the polar opposite, the rain they had week 9. For the Lions defense, Kirby Joseph and Branch, the safeties, have been playing phenomenal. Good thing they're both feeling great. Best safety duo in the league. And we know Kirby loves to play big against the Packers. But up front with the man coverage with Aaron Glenn's defense, I'm a bit worried. If Carlton Davis plays, he's not going to be 100%. Meaning Vildor might be out there, and he's just straight up a liability. Or Dorsey could be out there. I feel like he's a bit better than Vildor. Almost had the interception, but just didn't see it come to his hands in the end zone. The Lions secondary really fell apart in the second half there against the Bears, and the Lions were lucky to escape to continue their 10-game win streak. Amik Robertson had a mishap against Keenan Allen, giving up a touchdown. And we all know Terrion Arnold has been phenomenal, but has had his moments with pass interference. The Lions linebacker room is also hurt, and Anzalone's out, Malcolm Rodriguez out, Jack Campbell is going to be playing pretty much the whole game. He's have to come up big. Josh Jacobs was really efficient running against the Lions in the rain. Had 95 yards off 12 carries, averaging 7.2 yards an attempt. Didn't go that crazy against the Dolphins, but overall, through other rushers, the Packers' run game was really effective, and they didn't really need the run with the butter of the Dolphins secondary. Also, Tua in the cold. I know the Packers won by a good margin against the Dolphins, and it was never close, but that game doesn't specifically scare me because I will never take Tua in the Dolphins in the cold until they prove me otherwise. That's what I said when I watched them against KC in the playoffs last year, and all they did was check downs. Wasn't working against the KC defense. They continued to do it, and I'm going to stand by that until they prove me wrong. The Lions secondary worries me a little bit, and it's really scary when we're going up against Jaden Reed. Jordan Love loves to throw up the jump ball, and Jaden Reed loves to come down with it. Against Detroit week 9, 5 receptions off 6 targets, over 100 yards. He was great. But against the Dolphins, he had a few drops. If I was a Packers fan, I'd be a little skeptic, but not too worried. Jaden Reed is a dog. I'm sure he'll be fired up against the Lions to win, and he's not going to want to drop any balls. Again, Carlton Davis is going to be playing, but hopefully he's better than he is worse coming into this game injured. I just can't stop saying it. Vildor is just a liability out there. After that happened in San Francisco for the NFC Championship, every time I see him, it brings back the memories, and he continues to have a lot of mishaps. Against the Colts, he continued to get target. There was one play where he was just lost in coverage. The Lions secondary got pretty lucky against the Colts. And there's just a lot at stake with this game. Detroit's trying to stay ahead of the Eagles, who just had an amazing win over the Ravens. They're just one game behind. Packers want to keep their wild card spot. They currently have it locked down, but with a loss and a few tough opponents coming up, you never know. They would love to win this game, and Detroit is trying to stay in first place in the NFC North, one game above the Vikings, have the tiebreaker, but they will be playing again, and things can flip in an instant. Also, the Packers, if they win this game, they're going to be in the hunt for the title. Statistically, both of these teams are great. Detroit ranks second in passing touchdowns allowed. They were first, but Caleb Williams hung 3 on them. Didn't think that was going to happen, but it does make sense. I thought Caleb Williams and the Bears would make it close after the first half. I was like, wow, it's going to be a blowout. But the second half meltdown happened. Caleb got Eberflus fired. Well, he got himself fired, but just hilarious. I figured Swift wasn't going to be able to run the ball into the end zone, so if I thought the Bears were going to keep it close, obviously Caleb's going to throw touchdowns. Green Bay ranks 14th in that department. Rushing touchdowns allowed per game. Detroit is 8th. Green Bay is 10th. Rushing yards allowed. Green Bay is 8th. Detroit is 5th. Detroit is 2nd in points per game allowed. Green Bay is 9th. Detroit is 1st in points per game scored. Green Bay is 8th. Department where Detroit really lacks. Passing yards allowed per game, 25th. Green Bay, 17th. Talking about the Packers secondary, though, they have some questions. Jair Alexander's knees messed up, and McDuffie's ankle. That could prove to be a problem for the Packers secondary. Overall, though, these teams have great statistics in a bunch of areas. However, I think it's going to be high scoring. I think both offenses are going to have their way, and the defenses will probably step up and make big plays. Since the Lions and Packers played, and the Lions won 24-14 week 9, the Lions went on a tirade through the AFC South. 26-23 comeback against the Texans, a 52-6 win against the Jags, and a 24-6 win against the Colts. I believe the Lions defense is that good, but also a lot of those statistics are heavily influenced by some of these lopsided matchups. A score prediction for this game: Lions 31, Packers 21. Bit high scoring, but it's still going to be close. I think the Lions can win by 2 scores. I believe their defense will rally. They've just built that culture there where people play up. It's like the Chiefs, the Ravens, even the Packers. Matt LaFleur really has these players playing hard, and when you have an environment like that, sometimes anyone can step in and do the job. My touchdown scores are going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. St. Brown was 7 of 7 with a touchdown against the Packers in week 9, and that touchdown route on 4th down and goal, one of the best routes I've ever seen in well ran and catch. I think that play is easily top 5 for me this season. Just a tone setter for the game. Sometimes you see some all-star wide receivers, a lot of their targets are contested and they go incomplete. But with St. Brown, when has he had a game where he has struggled to get open? And when he is in tight coverage, Goff just puts it in there perfectly. I expect him to have a big game and to be Goff's big targets. Tim Patrick, though, has also stepped up, had some huge catches in some big moments. He's very reliable for Goff. And you would think Gibbs would be more of the screen man, but I feel like Gibbs' targets are more when Goff is feeling pressure and he just has to get rid of it for a few yards, and Gibbs is sometimes tightly covered. Montgomery has had 3 targets and 3 catches for the past few games, and he picks up a lot of yards on those screens. I don't know if it's the opposing team seeing Montgomery back there and they think it's more likely to be a run and they don't see him as more of a receiving back, but Ben Johnson really likes to call those, and whenever he does, he calls them at the right time, and they're very successful. So look out for that. It is unlucky that the Lions couldn't score a rushing touchdown against the Bears. Laporta with 2 had 3 receptions for like 6 yards and 2 touchdowns, which was pretty funny. The Lions were on a streak, I believe, for, I want to say like 30, 40 games consecutive with a rushing touchdown. That was the first one. They didn't get one. I think Gibbs would have had one if he didn't fumble. That fumble really changed the whole discourse of that game. They could have gone up by over 20 at halftime instead. Ball pops 3, just really unlucky. Gibbs was going too fast. That really sucked. Really excited for this matchup. It's going to be good. I think it's going to be high scoring, entertaining. We're going to see some crazy plays, some gutsy calls from both coaches, because both these teams have a lot to play for, and both these teams have a lot to prove. Dan Campbell said it. He doesn't care about the injuries, the excuses. He's going to get players to play. Again, 31-21. The Lions pull it out. A branch interception would feed families after getting kicked out at Lambeau Field. It's in a dome. It's going to be good weather. There's been a lot of crazy weather games, I feel like, so far this season. The snow has really been hitting everywhere, and it's been pretty exciting to watch. Fuck the Packers. Go Lions.